everyone, I'm Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to be doing a bracelet for you today that I'm calling the Topsy Turvy Bracelet. It's going to be working with our exclusive disc duo bead and then also the Checkmate 2-hole lentil. If you need any of the supplies, in the top right hand corner of the video there's a little I for information. You can check there. That's information from us, the supplier, as far as details about the different products and links if you would like to purchase them from me online. The other thing that's used, like I said, other than the disc duo is the 2-hole lentil. For the disc duo, I'm going to be using the Vitrol Matted Fool, and you're going to need about 12 to 14 of the disc duo beads, depending on how long you need it. If you have a smaller wrist, 11 might do you. But you're going to be using the disc duos down the middle. And in addition to the disc duos, we have those 2-hole lentils. So the 2-hole lentil color that I'm going to be using is the metallic amethyst luster, which is a nice kind of muted purple to go along with that kind of purple green edge of the Vitrol Fool on the sides. The example that I did here, the example piece, was the Slipperit Fool and then also the chartreuse in the 2-hole lentil, in case you wanted to know which colors they are. And then the opaque turquoise in the 11-0 was used here. I'm going to be going a little bit darker in the 11-0, and I'm using the Miyuki in the galvanized green steel color. That's going to pick up a little bit more of that green and mixed in with that purple. It's a nice kind of contrast. In addition to our 11-0s, we are also using 8-0 seed beads, and the 8-0s that I have here are that Amethyst AB silver lined. I'm going to be using the Crystal Labrador to bring that silver color into the design here. The last bead that you're going to be using is a 3mm bead. Whether or not you want to use a 2x3mm rondelle or a 3mm crystal or kind of a combination of 8-0 with demi-rounds on the side, you can kind of play around with that. I'm going to be using the 2x3mm rondelle in the metallic amethyst color. So that metallic purple color is what I'm going to be using that in. And we're going to highlight that with our cup button used at the very end. This is the Pastel Bordeaux cup button, and it is that nice bright purple as well to kind of pull all of these colors in and make that pop at the very, very end. The bracelet itself is going to be done with 2 needles, so I have 2 size 10 beading needles here, as well as my wildfire beading thread in my green color. Especially because I'm using some of the green beads, the green thread will really hide nicely and you won't see any of that thread working around. So to start the topsy-turvy, I want you to have 5 feet of thread with a needle on either end of the thread, and we're going to be working down the middle. To work down the middle, you're going to need both the 8-0s, the 11-0s, the disc duos, and the 2-hole lentils. So the only thing that you don't really need in a little pile on your bead mat is going to be that crystal rondelle. So those can stay off to the side for now, but get on 5 feet of your beading thread and we'll get ready to get started with this topsy-turvy bracelet. So to get started, what we're going to do is we are going to start with our cup button. And because this is a 2-needle project, it gives us a unique opportunity to actually start with the clasp. We're going to put on the cup button, but in order to put on the cup button, I'm going to add some of that green color to the start of it. So I have my needles on both my threads, again about 5 feet. I'm going to add 3 of my seed beads in that steel color. And then I'm going to add my cup button. The cup button is going to go in so that 1 needle goes through 1 hole and 1 needle goes through the other with the dome side down. That's going to have those little seed beads then fall right in the middle of the cup button and sit there nicely in the design, having just that little pop of green in the purple. Coming out the back of the project then, I'm going to go ahead and pick up 3 of my 11-0s with my right needle and then 3 11-0s with the left needle. And let those drop down next to the cup button as well. So I have the cup button on with the 3 11s in the middle. The cup button goes on, and then I have the 3 11s on either side of the cup button coming out of it. From here, I'm going to get ready to add my first of my disc duos. So the first disc duo is going to get added when you're looking at the design here. it's going to be a pattern of 8-0, then 11-0, and then your disc duo. So we're going to repeat that we have our 8-0, we're going to put one on the right needle and one on the left needle, then our 11-0, and then our disc duo. One needle is going to go through one hole of the disc duo, and one needle is going to go through the other hole of the disc duo. And we're going to let those drop down right next to our cup button. So you're going to have the pattern just like that. From there, coming out the disc duo, we are going to add some of our 2-holed lentils. So the 2-holed lentils, we're going to do the same thing with the right and the left needle. The 2-holed lentils are going to get added with an 11-0 seed bead, then a lentil, 8-0 seed bead, lentil, 11-0. So it doesn't matter which needle you're starting with, right or left. We're going to add 11-0, a 2-holed lentil, an 8-0, a 2-holed lentil, and an 11-0. Again, this is with my right needle. So I'm going to come back to the right side of that disc duo, and I'm going to sew around the side, taking the needle back to the start of the disc duo and circling around, coming out the top of the disc duo. Give a nice tight pull and make sure that lentil and the 8-0s kind of sit off to the side. Put down your right needle, and you're going to do the exact same thing with the left needle. So 11, lentil, 8, lentil, 11. The needle's coming out the left-hand side, so we're going to go into the left-hand side of the disc duo and come out the top of that disc duo on the left-hand side. So that creates almost like a little butterfly effect here on the bracelet. Coming out that then, we're going to add an 11-0 and an 8-0, just like we did on the opposite side. 11 and 8. From there, I let the 11 and the 8 drop down next to the disc duo, and the first little rotation is completed. Once you have the 11 and the 8 on, we're going to basically start a pattern over. To start the pattern over, we are going to use a lentil to start the pattern over. So the lentil is going to go on, one on the right and one on the left. After the lentil then, we begin that same pattern of the disc duo again. We're going to do an 8-0 on both the right and the left, and then an 11-0 on the right and the left. From there, we're going to get our next of our disc duos, and we're going to take one needle on the right-hand side and one needle on the left-hand side. Let that drop down next to your project. And we're going to begin those side little butterfly wings. Again, when you're on the side and those little wings, add an 11-0 and a lentil, an 8-0 and a lentil, another lentil and an 11-0. On the right side, go back to the start of that disc duo and up to progress. Give a nice little tight pull so you get rid of any extra thread that may be showing in the middle there of the project. Again, with the left needle, 11, lentil, 8, lentil, 11. Back to the start of that disc duo and out through the top. Give a nice tight pull, making sure that there's not any extra thread showing in the design and that there's not any extra thread on the side of the lentil. From there then, we're back to the start of the design, which is going to be an 11 on either needle, an 8 on either needle, and a lentil on either needle. Let that drop down on your design next to the disc duo, and you're going to continue then progressing the whole way along the bracelet, adding in those 8-0s, 11-0s on either side of the disc duo, and doing the little wings on the sides of the disc duo in order to get the foundation for the bracelet. You're going to do this the whole length of the bracelet. Again, depending on your size of your wrist, that might mean 11 or 12 or 13 of the disc duos, and those 13 sections then we get to come back and we're going to kind of join those all together by getting and attaching to the second hole of all of those lentils. So right now, continue down the project, adding in all of your disc duos and your lentil beads. And when we get to the end, then I'll show you how to make the loop to go into your cup button. So once you're at the end of the bracelet here, you have all of your little butterfly wings almost on. And we're going to go back to doing the clasp now. So when we started the clasp, we did the cup button here at the end. And we're going to do the end of the clasp here. And we're going to do a loop for our cup button. We're going to make that loop out of the 11 seed beads, but we're actually going to start here with our 11 O's and then add an 8-0 on each end. Just like we did with the other side, we wanted to complete our pattern after the disc duo. I have a smaller wrist, so I actually ended up with just 10 of the disc duos in the little pattern design that I had it on. From here, I want to bring the threads together. Anytime I make a loop, I like to actually bring the threads together into one bead before creating the loop. So I have an 11 seed bead on both the right needle and the left needle, and I'm letting that drop down next to the 8-0. I'm going to grab one more 8-0 seed bead, and I'm going to take both needles through the 8-0 seed bead in the same direction and let that drop down next to the project. So again, that brings it in kind of a V shape, and it gets my loop so that it has a smaller starting point. From there, I'm going to take one of my needles and add about 25 or so of my 11 seed bead, and it doesn't matter which needle is in your hand first because both of them are going to go through. We're going to use the second needle to retrace through all of these beads to reinforce our loop. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these seed beads on, kind of let them drop down. If you're doing another style clasp, now is when you want to add that as well. If you're using a metal clasp, I would suggest using some wire guards or wire protectors to make it so that it's nicer at the end and the thread does not fray. So I've got a little bit excited here, put on a little bit too many. I'm going to take a couple off. And then that same needle that's currently in my hand, I'm going to take down through the 8-0, one side of the 11 O's, and through the 8-0 and come out. Give a nice tight pull to get rid of any extra thread. And I'm going to pick up my second needle. I'm going to retrace through all of those seed beads that I just added, which is going to reinforce the loop and make it so that there are 2 strands of thread going the whole way through all of these seed beads. Anytime you have a clasp or a closure, you always want to make sure that you have multiple threads going through, since that's going to be where it has the most tension. When I come out the other side, I want to make sure to take that needle down through the 8-0 seed bead, the 11 seed beads, and then bring it down the opposite side of the 8-0. That way my needles are separated and they're each out one of the 8-0 seed beads, one to the right and one to the left. From there, it's time for me to kind of catch on to those lentils. So the way that we're going to work with the lentils are that we now need our crystals. So you can make a little pile of crystals, and you have your 11 seed beads. Your disc duos, your lentils, and your 8-0 seed beads can kind of get put to the side because we're just going to be using the 11s and the crystals from now on. So I have my little pile of my 11 seed beads, and I have my crystals, and everything is kind of ready to get going. Everything that you do with the right hand needle, you're also going to do with the left hand needle. So we're going to start with the right here. I'm going to push the left kind of off to the side, and I'm going to get ready to begin catching all the second holes of the lentils. To catch the second hole of the lentil, I'm going to add on 2 of my 11 seed beads and go through the second hole of that exterior lentil. When I'm in the middle here, it's when I'm going to add my crystal. We're going to add 3 11s, then your crystal, then 3 more 11 seed beads, and into the lentil. It's going to have that pushed out a little bit. When you're coming out then, the lentils in the grouping of 3, you're going to add a seed bead between each of the lentils. And then when you're coming out, that kind of butterfly wing, that separation of lentils, you're going to go back and do that group of 3 11 seed beads, followed by the crystal, and then 3 11 seed beads, and into the next. And give a nice tight pull to get rid of any extra thread that may be showing. So as you have it there, you can see kind of the siding starting to happen. Here with a 3mm bead rather than a 2mm bead, I did just use 2 of the 11-0 seed beads rather than 3. Again, 3 is just going to make it a little bit more rounded. 2 would also work. I'm just doing a variety here. When we get back to the 3 lentils in a row, again, we're just going to separate them by an 11-0 seed bead, adding the 11-0, sewing through the first lentil, adding 11-0, and sewing through the second lentil. I'll put this needle kind of off to the side, flip my project, and come over and start on the opposite side here. 2 11-0 seed beads go on in order to start down the side of the lentils. From there, I'm going to do my 3 seed beads, and my crystal, and my 3 seed beads. If you want to, you could also do 1 11-0, 1 8-0, and then your crystal. From here then, in between the lentils, I'll add my 11-0 seed bead between each. And I'm back then to the point where I need to add my crystals with the 3 11-0s on either side. So those 3 11-0s go on, down to the next lentil. From there, I put an 11-0 in between each of the lentils. And again, it's very simple, kind of coming back down the project here, adding in your lentils. And then after I get to the point where both are at the same place and at the same size, I'll give a tight little pull to tighten up that thread and to really make those loops kind of pop. So you can see the difference in the size of the loops when you're just doing 2 seed beads versus 3 seed beads, having this a little bit more kind of peaked. So it's a very simple process coming down then, adding in those seed beads in between the groupings of 3 lentils, and then the 3 seed beads and a crystal. Now that I've done it twice on both sides, I'm going to continue down the project, adding it in one more, or adding them in to each section here, and progressing with those crystals and the seed beads added in. So when you get to the end of the bracelet, it's very simple to solve the ending here and to finish it off. After you have your crystals in line and you have them all set up, when you're coming out the very end of the project, you're just going to repeat what you did at the start. So we're at the last of our lentils here. And I'm going to grab 2 seed beads on the right and then 2 seed beads on the left. And we're going to use this opportunity to reinforce the clasp as well. So just like I did on the other side coming out the 8-0, I added 2 11-0s. I add 2 11-0s and I'm going to go into the 8-0 seed bead. At the same time, go up through the seed beads there, up through the cut button. And if you can, go through that first seed bead there, great. Mine wants to be stubborn. And you're going to snake through the 3 seed beads that are there on the cut button. And then we're going to go down the opposite side. So that's going to take 3, or that's going to put 3 strands through the, or 2 strands through the clasp there. On the left hand side then, we'll grab the needle, grab 2 of my 11-0 seed beads, and do the same thing. Go up through the 8-0 on the left-hand side, up through the cut button, out through the top of the cut button, down the opposite side of the cut button, as well as the beads that are there, and then down through the seed beads after the cut button as well, and out the 8-0. So at this point here, then we have 3 rotations that have gone through the bracelet and have reinforced the clasp 3 times. I need to get the needle and thread to the same position and the same place in order to tie off the thread and have my bracelet be completed then. So to do so, I'm going to take the thread and needle back through the 11-0 and through the disc duo. That's the needle that's on the right there. The needle that's on the left, I'm going to do the same thing. Go back through the 11-0 and back through the disc duo. From here, I'm going to take these 2 needles then, and because my beads are green and my thread is green, you really won't notice it, I'm going to simply tie a knot. That knot I'm going to bring towards one side of the disc duo. So you can see I'm pulling it kind of towards the right hand side, and then I'm going to tie it again. do a nice tight pull, and you can easily hide that thread. If you want to, you could have also tied it right after the 8-0, only having 2 pieces of thread through your clasp. That's kind of up to you. After I tie it off, if you want to, I forgot to mention I have my thread burner here that I like to use. You can do your thread burner, or you can do some super glue, or super glue and your thread burner. I like to use the super new glue. And once you have that nice knot there, I'm going to burn down the thread ends, and then simply take the thread burner and burn down the little ends of the thread here, making it balled up so that way when you're going into it, you don't actually want to go through that or burn through the knot that you just created. We're just creating a little bit of a balled end after the knot. From there then, your Topsy Turvy bracelet is complete. You can kind of see the difference between the more rounded versus more of that diamond shape that I did with the adding 3 seed beads versus the 2 seed beads. You can decide which version you want to do and have fun making it. Again, if you need any of the supplies, you can go back to the beginning of the video where I listed them off, or to that little eye in the right-hand corner. You can also look below the video where the timestamp is, or the date stamp is, that says when the video was produced. And from there, underneath, it will do links to the different products online as well, so if you need to get any of the materials. As always, you can also join us and stay connected with us by subscribing to this YouTube channel. When you subscribe to this YouTube channel, then you'll get regular updates about videos that we do, fun new products that we have, and all the different things that we create. You can also join us on on Facebook, and check us out there, as well as Instagram and Pinterest, all those fun social media things. You can also join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. And the beading and jewelry making Facebook group is a great way to interact with people that love to make jewelry, love to have fun creating. They have great ideas, great designs, and great suggestions if you're needing some help or have questions that you want answered. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Have fun if you get a chance to get your hands on some of these materials and make the Topsy Turvy bracelet. Thanks, everybody.